Welcome to Fast Pace, the new growth, leadership and management podcast featuring Josh Phegan and Dean Mackie. We wanted to peel back the layers on what happens in the world of fast-paced real estate agencies, from new leadership models to the management challenges we all face each day. This is about a new era in the estate agency sector. Rapid changes to business models, service lines, remuneration and growth present the greatest opportunities that we've ever seen. Sit back, get inspired, grow your skills, and reimagine what's possible with Fast Pace. Every Friday, wherever you get your podcasts, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Josh Phegan Digital. Dean, there was a great quote that I saw, with Jim Collins, and he was always that, the greatest throttle to any business growth is always going to be people. And it got me thinking that, we saw once, I think Nick Dowling at Jealous Craig had this conversation with us that, why recruit one person when you can recruit 70? And that was about this whole idea about a merger and acquisition that he had on the plate at the time. And it went on to be incredibly successful for their business. And it just got me to thinking, about what are the great secrets to a merger? And if you think about, great secrets to a merger, that's a really important part of what we do. So Dean, from your perspective, when you think about a merger and some of the great secrets, there are things that go seriously wrong inside of mergers. And someone said to me the other day, Josh, I'm going to do a merger. And I'm like, have you wrestled a crocodile before? And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, it's going to turn like 500 times and the deal will be off 500 times. But if you get it right and you learn to anticipate it, then literally can make a big difference. So Dean, what have the lessons been that you have gained in doing mergers and acquisitions?
Funny, Josh, I was walking along today thinking about a business that I didn't merge with, but I acquired, and looking back at it, it was probably the stupidest thing I've ever done at the time. I didn't know anything about anything really, and it was fraught with all sorts of issues. And I look back and go, would I do that deal again today? And the answer would be probably not. Yeah. God, it was definitely an expensive lesson in learning, right? But you know what? That's what happens sometimes. And I think what I have learned is that look, if you're thinking of joining forces, potentially sometimes agents merge their businesses together too, Josh. If you're thinking about merging with another agent or even another office, then mergers can be a really fantastic way to expand your reach, your resources and your expertise. But, making sure that it's a smooth and successful union comes with a whole bunch of lessons I've learned over the years. So I guess if you want to think about it, where I'd start with all of this is sometimes on paper things look pretty good and we all get excited to go for growth. But at the heart of it, if you're going into a merger and you don't have a foundation of trust, then you're going to have all sorts of issues. And so the things that I focus on well and truly, in detail, well before we get to any sort of merge, are things like, do we have a shared vision and do we have some shared values? Because culturally, if you're merging some businesses or you're trying to merge together and you're ideologically opposed, then you're going to end up in quite a few train smashes. Agents will end up in infighting and people will leave, and then, if the way that the rent roll's being managed, you're going to lose lots of clients, all that sort of stuff. So I wouldn't be rushing into a merger just for the sake of growth, right? I'll be making sure that you and your potential partner share the same vision for the future.
And they might want to be getting out though too, right?
They might be, yeah. But the people that are in the business that are going to stay there, and because what are their business practices? What sort of ethics do they have? What's their financial situation genuinely? Like, what are their strengths and weaknesses and all that stuff? So I think being transparent and having some really hard conversations about, what the real goals of the person, like you said, they might want to be having a succession plan to get out, or they might want to get out right away. But then what does it mean for the people inside the business that are connected to them? What are the aspirations of the people that are inside their business? Uncovering all those fears and all those challenges is really important up front, because if you don't cover them, they will come back and bite you, And then the other thing I look for is complementary skill sets. Or complementary market share focus or things like that. So you sort of truly get that sort of 1 + 1 can equal 3, because I don't see any value in merging unless it's going to have an accretive uplift, right? So there has to be some real power in that. So what's going to complement your existing business? Maybe they've got some good people in there that you don't have, or maybe they've got some things that you could add value for you. But it's almost, how do you come together to create a more formidable force that means that we're better off together than we were when we're alone? So you've got to go through a whole bunch of that. So I think if that's where I start, right? And then the second piece is if you get through that, and then you go, yeah, this still feels good, let's now run all the numbers and all those things, then planning is the key. So, for example, we had someone in our office last week who will be going through a transition with our business. And I think that they were really pleasantly surprised at the detail that we had built into our business around how do we chart the course? How do we build a detailed implementation plan? Because there are so many things that will be on somebody's mind that if you don't cover them off, they can actually become a problem. So we have a very, very detailed integration plan that outlines everything from marketing strategies to operational procedures, things like branding, commission structures, all technology platforms, all that sort of stuff. And we have a team of people that know their parts to play as and when it comes on board to then go through the process with the other party to test and adjust. Like, we might even be using the same system, but we might be using it differently, right? But uncovering that early is really important because you might have training gaps or assumed knowledge or different things that come up, right? So I think understanding all that's really important, and then not only having that integration plan, you need to share it with everybody involved in the process so people know what's happening when. Because otherwise what happens is people start then not knowing, when's this happening or when's that happening? And people can lose sleep at night and people can have unnecessary worry. So having a really, not just a detailed plan, but it being a shared plan that as and when it gets action, people get updated, has a lot of value. So there's a lot of software that you can get that helps you manage that process. And we happen to use a system called Monday, and it's a very detailed, and it's got every bit you can possibly think of. And then I guess the other part is accepting and acknowledging that mergers can be quite disruptive, right? Because they can suck up a lot of time and a lot of resources, because when you merge, it's not just a matter of someone putting a new brand up, but there's a lot of stuff you've got to go through, from cultural stuff and standards, and you can't assume anything, and it can take up to 12 months to get a full merger where you want it to be. So the sooner you can get ahead of that, you're going to have, there's going to be employees in that business or people in that business that are going to have concerns. They're going to have fears. To actually uncover all that stuff and help them adapt to a new structure is really important. So getting some open communication and providing support through the change management process is something I think that gets underestimated. And if you miss it, it can cause you quite a few problems down the track. So that's the second thing. So I'd say, make sure you're aligned, making sure you're getting the planning right, and then cultivating a culture of collaboration, right? Because if you celebrate diversity and you leverage each other's true strengths, you can actually learn a lot from each other in that merge. Like I said, 1 + 1 can equal 3. So how do you get teams that are coming together to collaborate, to feel comfortable, to create a safe space so people sort of work together, share knowledge, and are prepared to learn from each other? That's also been something that I've noticed. If you get that right and you anticipate some of that, it really helps, because now little things like you can celebrate, you can recognize teamwork. If there's some teamwork that happens between two merged entities, calling that out and acknowledge that and rewarding that, so people go, that's what we want to see here. So I think that's they're probably the three pillars, right? Is alignment, the planning process, and then a culture of collaboration.
Sometimes it's also important to have some tools and third parties and almost like a deal coach. Like one of the things that I've done with a lot of people is drop a little team intersection and just write down, agree on, and work on. So there might be some things that foundationally you just agree on straight away, but there are some things that we need to work on. Dean, I'm not changing if I have to change my colours. Like I'm really set on my brand. But everything else you can actually work on. So literally it's like, okay, great. Well, we actually have agreed on all of these foundational principles, and brand is the last issue. If brand came up first, you'd never talk about the other 50 things that you can agree on. And so ultimately, let's go and agree on all of those other things. And I'm sure that brand won't be an issue a little bit later on down the track. Let's be open on that. But naturally, we know where we want to go, but we've got to nurse through the deal. The secondary part, and I love that about, getting a plan together. Who's on our team? Because you know what, the deal always comes apart because their partner at home or an accountant or a legal advisor or someone somewhere else gives some sort of advice which is contrary to what you're actually doing, and then there's misinterpretation of the information that's presented. So I say, okay, great. So guys, just so that you know, in terms of our merger and acquisition team, this is our head of sales. They're going to talk through the sales environment. This is our head of PM. They're going to talk through what we're doing in IM or the PM role. This is then literally going to be our head financier. This is going to be our key legal person. Let's get all these people around the table and set the intention from day one, so we don't muck around about valuation methodologies or process on financing, or what a managing agreement needs to look like when it's signed, so that it is compliant and it actually meets all of those requirements. And I had someone the other day, doing a transaction of about 500 managements, and the firm that they were buying from had said, we'll re-sign all of their managing authorities and get it across to the new entity. And they were literally 10 days out from settlement, and only 10 of those managing authorities had been signed. Well, what are you going to do? Well, it's going to have to be in tranches now and starting to think differently about how we're going to bring those across. But it's like, you got to realize that sometimes you are dealing with and potentially buying a business which is in decay. And that's why you're buying it for the price point that you're getting it at. And there are other businesses where you're going to be paying top line premium because you're actually getting top line premium on the other side of the equation. understand what you're buying. Is it a fixer-upper, or is it something that's actually very stable, very compliant, and very capable? And make sure the multiple is representative of that, by doing all the normal things, sampling 20 files, having a conversation with key people, getting involved in doing what you're doing to getting it deeper. But also realize this, the person that you're buying from may never have sold a business before. And so it's actually very possible that they are not clear on what's going to be going on.
It's almost certain.
Yeah, like taxation issues, things that go on with entities, employee entitlements, where does that fall? All of those basic things. But yet if you've got a really dialed in checklist, which no doubt you do, and I bet you that you'll get a better checklist once you do another 20 of these, that makes a huge difference in bringing together these mergers and acquisitions.
100%, because you're then zeroing in on each of those items in the order that they need to be dealt with. And then everybody then understands what's their responsibility and what's their role in each part of it. Is it the company that's doing the acquisition, or is it the person that's coming along? So there's definitely these things, and I found, Josh, every time we've done one of these, it comes up with a different set of challenges. And I think you are right. If it's all on the table and everyone knows what's going on, then it makes it so much easier for everyone involved.